Daniela Cambone. Welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. In studio today, my first in studio guest for the new show here, Ashley Davis. She's the lead principal at West Front Strategies, but you may remember her name as George W. Bush's former senior official, one of the senior officials in his cabinet. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank
so
you.
good
Thank
to meet you.
I didn't know I was first.
Yes, in studio. We generally don't do in studio, but when I heard you were in town, I said, "Oh, we got to get her on the
fun.
show."
Yeah, I like doing that better.
We want to get your perspective on so many topics top of mind today. Let's start with what's happening on the jobs front. I mean, jobs numbers coming in hotter than expected. Actually, the question is the Fed, looking at this data, obviously going to be able to do what they've been wanting to do for so long and cut rates? I mean, looking at this, I think, like, when are they going to do it now?
Well, I definitely think I'm going to answer your questions through a political perspective in regards to what's happening in Washington. But I would say before the numbers this morning, we didn't feel that they were going to be able to cut rates before the election, which is what everyone in my business and the markets in general are watching. But I think after the numbers today, there's absolutely no way that they'll be able to cut the rates. And so before November. And so if you're the Biden administration, you're probably obviously happy about what happened today, but also getting the rates cut was something that would be important to some of the economic issues that are happening in the country. The number one issue right now for voters and every poll is the economy, and it's not. The economy's strong, and if you just look at it from being here in New York or Washington or LA, but if you're in the middle part of the country or just a regular person trying to make ends meet, some of those prices have not gone down.
Exactly.
So gas, what happened with OPEC last week.
Exactly.
You have rent that's expensive, insurance that's expensive, and I just don't. There's no way that those numbers that impact everyday Americans will come down before the election.
Well, I read a staggering statistic that nearly, 2/3 of middle class Americans are just barely getting by here, Ashley. So, getting some sort of price stability to me is, seems imperative right now.
And just things like, I saw the millennial generation, they're not able to go out to dinner because prices at restaurants are so high. But yeah, 2/3 of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And I think it's something that's going to be a concern going into this election with President Biden's team, because is he out of touch with what's happening in Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, or just everyday Americans? And it's a debate that's happening on all sides. And it's not necessarily his fault. There's both sides of the argument on this, and I don't want to get political about it. But it's, at the end of the day, everyday Americans look at the president for how their life is being impacted. And so whether it's his fault or not, it's going to be hung around his neck.
I was excited to have you on the show, Ashley, because obviously, like you said, you can see through a lot of political jargon. And this article had really caught my attention, which I felt had gone under the radar in mainstream media, that the U.S. House passes bill banning Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency. Now, some ran with the headline saying U.S. bans central bank digital currencies. Because we talk so much about central bank digital currencies, I ask you, I mean, what does that really what it means? I mean, what is the likelihood of this not moving forward, with the Fed for the longest time telling us, no, we're looking at a central bank digital currency?
So I think you'll be happy to know this bill doesn't really have any teeth. I mean, if you look at how it passed with almost all Republicans and I think 2 or 3 Democrats, which means that this has absolutely no chance of going through as legislation right now, at least until the election, with a Democrat Senate. And so what we were talking about earlier, which is really important with a lot of these pieces of legislation, because in the House you only have to have a supermajority to pass any bill, a lot of things just get through that will never see the light of day in the Senate. And the Senate, in order to pass anything, you need 60 votes. And that's even before a president could veto the legislation, which I'm assuming Joe Biden would definitely veto something like this. But in how the Senate is made up right now, you would need 9 Republicans to come over and say they support this legislation, and it's just not going to happen. And I think the head of the campaign arm was the one whose bill this is.
Right.
So Tom Emmer, I just don't think it. Yeah, I just don't think it has any.
Okay. Shedding light. I'm happy you said that. So.
And that's what's problems sometimes with the media that don't understand.
Well, that's why I was grateful for you to kind of drop the truth on this, because I had a lot of people also calling me saying, is this true? Like excited at the prospect that maybe a CBDC would be banned in the US, but you're saying don't get excited too.
No, and maybe transitioning to the other piece of legislation, if you want to talk
crypto,
about that, the crypto legislation, same thing. This is where they move some of the jurisdictional regulation issues from the SEC to the CFTC, which is a lot of people want the crypto to be treated as a commodity. That passed the House with major numbers on both the Republican and Democrat side. So yes, it was a strong vote, and it is something that the Senate could potentially bring up. The president did say he would veto it. He hasn't vetoed it because it's never passed the Senate. And I do not think, definitely before the election, the chairman of the banking committee is not a huge fan of crypto and crypto policy. So there's really not any chance that this, fortunately or unfortunately, will ever be brought up in the Senate either, at least in the how the House and Senate structured right now. However, one more thing.
Okay.
If I was a betting girl, which I'm not, if anything passed by the end of the year after the election, it would probably be some sort of narrow stablecoin legislation that many members on both sides of the aisle are kind of behind, the president's behind. There is a thought to attach it to some sort of banking cannabis bill, which would bring more Democrats in the Senate along with it. But if you talk to a lot of the people in the crypto world in Washington, and believe me, there has been lots of education that's had to happen on what this actually means. There's many members on both sides of the aisle just don't understand, right? And so the stablecoin legislation is something that people can get their heads around.
Right. I'd have to agree with that. But let me ask you a juggernaut of a question, and maybe this is too loaded of a question, but when people, and I'm sure you've heard it, what happens if, could the US government ban Bitcoin? Is that impossible?
I mean,
I work in the gold world, so it comes up a lot. Well, Bitcoin could be banned.
No, I don't think so. And especially with what just happened. Chairman Gensler of the SEC is probably one of the strictest anti-regulators in regards to crypto. And you even saw what happened at the end of May with Bitcoin, with the SEC allowing certain things to happen. That the fact that it's opening up this much is a sign that it won't be completely banned. But also, on both sides of the aisle, there's been many newspaper articles about this. The crypto industry is playing heavily in this election in regards to supporting candidates that understand and support crypto. So I can go into what that means.
Because there's been extreme criticism of that, of the super PACs behind and the money being put behind. I mean, should that even be allowed, Ashley?
Well, how the U.S. government laws are happening is you can give money to candidates that support your issues, and the super PACs is different. I mean, that's something that, but they're not allowed to directly support candidates. They have to support candidates through issue campaigns, and so it's a little bit different. But it's not that if the crypto industry, for example, supports Senator X, Y, and Z, they're all of a sudden going to do anything they can for the crypto industry. I think it's more that the industry is trying to get on the radar screen of some of the members that are actually pro crypto. So it's been happening for years with the defense industry, tech industry, defense industry. Yeah. You want members to understand your industry that are elected. And so for everyone that's watching that's from an international perspective, they always think that U.S. companies bring bags full of money and then their issues are just they're, solved.
Fair enough.
We do have a good checks and balance in place.
Oh, that's somewhat good to know.
But it is okay. It is okay. Yeah, it is. Yes. But it is okay if the industry supports members that understand their industry.
Right.
It's not something easy to understand for the general public or some of these members.
So top of mind for many people as we're inching closer towards the election is obviously what's going on in the judiciary system of America. And I bring this up because as we're speaking, the Hunter Biden trial is underway. And Financial Times had an op-ed piece. And I want to get your thoughts on this. They said, if Biden Jr. is convicted, there will be no uproar about the weaponization of America's courts. If, on the other hand, he is acquitted, all conspiratorial hell will break loose. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't know. One of the maybe. I mean, I also heard if Trump was convicted, there were going to be so many protests in the streets, and that never happened. I have to say, what's been sad for the last 10 to 15 years is that our Department of Justice has been politicized. Mm-hmm. And so has everyone and their brother getting impeached. I mean, if you think about the history of our country, when Nixon was impeached, mm-hmm. obviously there was a major mm-hmm. issue. Clinton was never impeached by the Senate. I mean, before that, those were very serious accusations that were brought up against presidents. Starting, I think, during the Trump years, everyone was getting impeached. This year, the Republicans impeached the Secretary of Homeland Security over the border. I mean, it's just, it's weaponizing our judiciary system in general, whether it's through impeachment or whether it's through our courts. And if you look at just the pure legal what happened with President Trump's conviction, the case is very weak, and many scholars say that will probably be overturned in the appeals, which will be after the election. But that the case wasn't strong in regards to a federal case. Put that there. So again, people are saying, and he's raised more money than he ever has since he's been convicted. President Trump has. So there's obviously people in America that are thinking that it was a political move. And I personally think that what Hunter Biden they've been trying to get Hunter Biden, meaning Republicans, for a long time based on, now it's this gun charge and lying on a form, but whether it was his computer work in regards to some of his business dealings. And this is what he's actually gone to trial for, is something that I think is being weaponized as well.
It's just, as like you said, we inch closer to the election. Don't you see like the focus, which really should be the economy, and how the border, the economy, border, and how the average American is just struggling, is just getting lost in this noise, Ashley, right?
Noise on both sides. We're talking about prostitutes and everything else in the Trump, and now we're talking about drugs and the three ladies in Hunter Biden's life. I just think it's it's cheapening our brand.
Our brand. Yeah. I saw Kevin O'Leary saying that.
Oh, he did
as well.
Gosh.
So
okay. Well, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that he just is concerned about the whole American brand just being cheapened on a world stage. But
absolutely.
Ashley Davis, I thoroughly enjoyed you stopping by. Thank you so much. Come back more often with your insights, helping us get the truth out of what's really out there. And thank you all for watching. Happy Friday. We'll have more content coming your way, so be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show and sign up, DanielaCambone.com.